For over 200 years, the Galactic Council had talked with Earth. The humans were strange but interesting creatures. They were sometimes angry but also full of new ideas. They fought among themselves but could also work together when needed. Their messages filled the galaxy with math, cooking shows, music, and peace talks. Then one day, everything stopped. Admiral Zex Terra sat at the big control room of the Galactic Council. Her 4 eyes stared at the screen showing Earth's sector. Not a single light blinked. Not a single sound came through. "How long has it been quiet?" she asked Officer Klim, who watched the communication systems. 3 days, Admiral. No sounds from the Sol system at all. This had never happened before. Even when humans had their biggest wars, or when nature hit them hard with storms and quakes, they never stopped talking. Humans always had something to say. "This is not normal," Zex Terra said, her skin changing from blue to a worried purple. "Something must be wrong." She stood up, her tall frame casting a shadow across the room. The other aliens watched her, waiting for orders. "Send our best ships to the edge of their star system," she commanded. "But do not cross the line we agreed not to cross. We must find out what happened without breaking our treaty." Officer Klim nodded and sent the message to the fleet. 5 scout ships soon left the main station, heading toward Earth's solar system. On the main council planet, news spread fast. Aliens from 100 different worlds gathered in public spaces, watching the big screens that usually showed human TV shows and news. The screens were now empty. "Perhaps they destroyed themselves," said a small green alien to his friend. "They were always close to doing that." "Maybe a disease killed them all," suggested another. "Or another species attacked them," whispered a third. Fear spread through the galaxy. If something could silence Earth so completely, what did that mean for everyone else? Dr. Nyla Kuvex, the Council's expert on human behavior, didn't believe any of these theories. She had studied humans for over 50 years. She knew them better than any other alien in the galaxy. Humans don't just disappear, she told the council members who had called an emergency meeting. And they never, ever shut up. The council room was large, with seats for representatives from every world in the Alliance. Today, every seat was filled. No one wanted to miss this discussion. "Could they have moved beyond their physical bodies?" asked one council member. "Some species do that when they reach a certain level of technology." "Not humans." Dr. Kuvex shook her head. "They love their bodies too much. They're always trying to make them stronger, faster, better." Meanwhile, on the lead scout ship approaching Earth's solar system, Captain Valara and her human co-pilot Ryan Miller watched the long-range scanners. "Still nothing?" asked Valara. Ryan checked all frequencies again. Not a word. Not even automated messages from their satellites. "It's like someone turned off the whole planet." "Is that possible?" Valara's antenna twitched with worry. Ryan looked at the image of Earth growing larger on their screen. From the outside, the blue planet looked normal. But the silence was anything but normal. "No," he said quietly. "Something is very wrong." As their ship moved closer, they noticed something strange. A faint glow around the planet, almost invisible unless you knew what to look for. "What is that?" Valara asked, pointing at the screen. Ryan leaned forward, his eyes wide. "I don't know, but I think we just found our answer." The council meeting room buzzed with worried voices. Aliens of all shapes and sizes filled the big round hall. Some had scales, some had fur, and others looked like walking plants. But they all shared one feeling: fear. Council leader Vox Marin stood at the center platform. His blue skin looked pale, almost white with worry. The room went quiet when he raised his 3-fingered hand. "Friends, we face a mystery," he said. "Earth has gone silent. We have 3 main ideas about what happened." He touched a button, and a picture of Earth appeared above him. "First, they might have destroyed themselves. Human history shows they often came close to this." Many aliens nodded. Humans were famous for their big weapons and angry fights. Second, maybe all their machines broke down at once. This seemed less likely. Humans had machines spread across their whole planet. How could they all stop at the same time? Third, they might have changed into something new. Some species give up their bodies when they get very smart. Dr. Nyla Kuvex sat in the back row, listening. She had spent her life studying humans. None of these ideas felt right to her. Humans are loud, she whispered to herself. They talk even when no one is listening. After the meeting, she went to her office and looked at her collection of human things. Books, music players, toys, and food packages. Each item told a story about these strange two-legged beings who never stopped making things and sharing ideas. She picked up a small device humans called a radio. It had not picked up any Earth signals for 3 days now. What happened to you? She asked the silent planet in her mind. Far away, near Earth's solar system, the scout ship Edgewalker moved carefully closer to the human world. Captain Valara watched as her human co-pilot Ryan Miller tried every way he knew to contact his home planet. Nothing, Ryan said, shaking his head. Not even emergency channels are working. Valara put her hand on his shoulder. Her purple skin stood out against his tan uniform. We'll figure this out, she said. Ryan pointed to the screen showing Earth. Look there. Do you see that faint glow around the planet? Valara leaned forward, her 4 eyes narrowing. Yes. What is it? I'm not sure, Ryan said. But it's not natural. It looks like some kind of energy field. They sent their findings back to the Galactic Council. Within hours, 3 more ships joined them, forming a small fleet just outside the orbit of Mars. On the Council homeworld, Dr. Kuvex rushed into the emergency command center with the news. An energy field, she said excitedly. That's why we can't hear them. Admiral Zex Terra looked up from the big map table. What kind of energy field can block all signals from an entire planet? None that we know of, Dr. Kuvex admitted, but humans are always inventing new things. The Admiral frowned. Are they trapped inside this field, or did they create it on purpose? No one had answers yet, but now they had a clue. We need to send someone closer, Dr. Kuvex suggested. Someone who knows Earth well. Admiral Zex Terra nodded slowly. I know just the person. In a small apartment on the Council space station, a man named Neil Garcia was sleeping when his door chime rang. He had left Earth 20 years ago to work with aliens, becoming one of the few humans to live full-time in Council space. He opened the door to find a Council messenger standing there. Neil Garcia. The Admiral needs you, the messenger said. It's about Earth. Neil's heart skipped a beat. What about Earth? It's gone silent. And you might be the only one who can help us find out why. Neil Garcia stood in front of the window on the small scout ship called Star Whisper. Earth grew larger on the screen, a beautiful blue ball wrapped in white clouds. It looked peaceful from far away. I never thought I would come back like this, Neil said quietly. His alien partner, Kreelan, stood beside him. Kreelan looked like a tall insect with green skin and 4 arms. His big eyes could see things humans couldn't. Your home looks normal from here, Kreelan said. No signs of war or big disasters. Neil nodded. He had lived away from Earth for 20 years, working as a bridge between humans and aliens. Now the Galactic Council needed his help because he understood both worlds. My sister and her kids are down there, Neil said. And we can't even call them. Their small ship moved closer to Earth. They had special permission to get nearer than other alien ships. Neil felt both excited and scared. What would they find? I'm picking up strange energy readings, Kreelan said, looking at the ship's computers. The whole planet is surrounded by some kind of bubble. Neil looked at the readings. The energy field wasn't visible to human eyes, but the ship's tools could see it. The field covered the entire planet like a thin skin. I've never seen anything like this, Neil said. This isn't normal Earth technology. As they moved into orbit around Earth, they tried all the different ways to call people on the planet. radio signals, laser messages, and even old-style television broadcasts. Nothing worked. It's like the whole planet is inside a soundproof room, Neil said with a frown. Then something strange happened. Look at this, Kree-Len called out, pointing at one of the screens. The energy field is thinner here, right above this part of the planet. Neil looked at the map. That's North America, near where I grew up. The field is changing as we orbit, Kree-Len said. It gets weaker when we pass over this spot. Suddenly, their communication system made a noise. A scratchy, broken sound came through the speakers. Hello, is anyone there? A woman's voice broke through the static. Neil jumped to the controls. Yes, this is Scout Ship Star Whisper. Who am I talking to? The voice came back, stronger now. Oh, thank goodness. This is Dr. Laura Wilson from United Earth Defense. You're the first off-world voice we've heard in 3 days. Neil and Kree-Len looked at each other in surprise. Dr. Wilson, what happened to Earth? Why did all communications stop? Neil asked. Through the static, they could now see a woman's face on the screen. She had short brown hair and looked very tired. It was supposed to be a test, she explained. Just a 2-day test of a new shield system to protect Earth from solar flares. But something went wrong. A shield system that blocks all communications? Neil asked. No, that's the problem, Dr. Wilson said. It wasn't supposed to block communications at all, but the shield got too strong. We can't turn it off now. We're trapped inside our own protection system. Then how are we talking now? Kree-Len asked. Dr. Wilson's image flickered. Your ship created a weak spot in the shield. The way you approached Earth made a small hole. We saw it and pointed all our communication systems at it. But it's already closing. Neil felt a chill. So Earth is trapped. Forever. Not if you help us, Dr. Wilson said, her voice breaking up. I'm sending you data. Find Professor Alan Pierce. He designed the system. He's not on Earth. Then the screen went dark. The connection was lost. Neil looked at the computer. It had received part of a data file from Earth. We need to get this information back to the Council, he said. And find this Professor Pierce. Play it again, Admiral Zextera said. The room was dark except for the glow of screens. All the top council members watched as Dr. Laura Wilson's broken message played once more. It was supposed to be a test. Shield system. Solar flares. Can't turn it off. Find Professor Alan Pierce. Neil Garcia stood in front of them, still tired from his fast trip back from Earth. Kree-Len stood beside him, all 4 arms holding different data pads. That's all we got, Neil said. The connection broke after that. Admiral Zextera's skin changed to a deep purple, showing her worry. So humans are trapped inside their own shield, a shield that was meant to protect them. Yes, Neil nodded. And we need to find this Professor Pierce. Dr. Kuvex stepped forward. According to our records, there are about 5,000 humans living off Earth. Some on Mars, some on space stations, and some here in Council space. Finding one human among thousands will be hard, Kree-Len said. Admiral Zextera stood up tall. Then we start now. Send messages to every place where humans live. Check every ship that left Earth in the past month. Find this Professor Pierce. The search began. Council ships visited every human settlement in the solar system. They checked Mars colonies, moon bases, and asteroid mining stations. They asked at space hotels and research labs. Meanwhile, Neil and Kree-Len studied the broken data file they got from Earth. It was only partly complete, but it showed plans for the shield system. It's very smart design, Kree-Len said, looking at the plans. The shield was meant to block harmful radiation from solar flares, but let normal communications pass through. Then what went wrong? Neil asked. 3 days passed. The Council searched everywhere, but couldn't find Professor Pierce. Earth remained silent, trapped inside its bubble. Then a message came from a small research station orbiting Europa. one of Jupiter's moons. We may have found him, the message said. Neil and Creelan joined a council ship that raced to Europa. The research station was small, just a metal ring spinning slowly around the icy moon. Only 30 people lived there, studying Europa's ocean. When they arrived, the station manager, a woman named Judy Coleman, met them at the dock. "He doesn't use the name Pierce anymore," she explained as they walked through the station's narrow halls. "He goes by the name Alan right now. He arrived 3 weeks ago and keeps to himself." "Why would he change his name?" Neil asked. Judy shrugged. "He's odd. Brilliant but odd. Spends all day writing equations on any surface he can find." She led them to the observation deck, a room with big windows looking out at Jupiter's giant form. A thin man with wild gray hair stood at one window, writing on the glass with a marker. "Professor Pierce," Neil called out. The man didn't turn around. "Not using that name anymore," he said, still writing. Neil stepped closer. "Sir, Earth needs your help." The man's hand stopped moving. He slowly turned around. His face was thin and tired, with eyes that looked both sharp and sad. "What happened?" he asked quietly. "The shield you designed," Creelan said. "It worked too well. The whole planet is cut off." Professor Pierce's eyes grew wide. "That's not possible. I built failsafes. Multiple failsafes." "Well, they didn't work," Neil said. "And now billions of people are trapped." Pierce looked back at his equations on the window. "The resonance must have amplified beyond my calculations. The field is probably feeding on Earth's own electromagnetic energy now. Can you fix it?" Admiral Zex Terra asked from the doorway. Pierce stared at the alien admiral for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Yes, but we'll need to work fast. If the shield keeps getting stronger, soon nothing will be able to break through it." The Galactic Council's main ship, Star Voyager, became the center of a rescue mission. Admiral Zex Terra gave up her private dining room so Professor Pierce could work there. Soon the walls were covered with equations and diagrams. Neil watched as the professor worked. Pierce barely slept or ate. He just wrote and muttered to himself. "Is he making progress?" Creelan asked on the second day. Neil shrugged. "Hard to tell. He doesn't explain much." Meanwhile, the council was busy. They sent messages to every corner of space where humans lived. They checked records of all ships that left Earth before the shield went up. They needed to find anyone who knew about the shield project. "We found something," Dr. Kuvek said, rushing into the makeshift workroom. 3 engineers who worked with Pierce on the shield. They're on Mars colony. Within hours, the engineers were brought to the Star Voyager by a fast shuttle. They looked nervous as they entered the room where Pierce was working. "Professor," said one of them, a woman named Olivia Smith, "we never thought the shield would cause this problem." Pierce didn't look up from his work. "Of course not. None of us did. Can you explain exactly what happened on the day of the test?" Admiral Zex Terra asked the engineers. Frank Parker, the oldest of the 3 engineers, spoke up. "The shield was designed to cover Earth like an umbrella, blocking solar radiation but allowing communications to pass through. We activated it at half power," said the 3rd engineer, Ron Davis. "Everything worked perfectly for the first hour." "Then what?" Neil asked. "Then we increased the power to 75% as planned," Olivia explained. "That's when things started to go wrong. The shield began to pull energy from Earth's magnetic field. It grew stronger than we expected. We tried to shut it down," Frank added. "But by then, the shield had cut off our connection to the control satellites." Professor Pierce finally looked up. The design was perfect. The math was perfect. Something else must have interfered. The room went quiet as everyone thought about this. "What about the lunar bases?" Creelan suddenly asked. "Earth has bases on the moon. Are they also cut off?" The 3 engineers looked at each other. "The moon," Ron Davis said excitedly. "The lunar bases are outside the shield, but close enough to communicate with special high-powered transmitters. "Have we checked if they're still working?" Neil asked. Admiral Zex Terra touched a communication panel on the wall. "Send a message to all lunar bases immediately." Within an hour, they had their answer. The lunar bases were still active and had been trying to contact Earth since the shield went up. They couldn't get through either, but they had been watching the situation. "This changes everything," Professor Pierce said. For the first time in days, he smiled. "We can use the lunar bases to help break the shield." He turned to the large screen on the wall and started drawing a new diagram. "The shield is like a bubble around Earth," he explained. "It's strongest at the points where our control satellites are positioned, but there are weak spots between them." He pointed to several spots on his drawing. "If we can hit these weak spots with the right energy frequency from the lunar bases, we might be able to break the shield." "Might?" Admiral Zex Terra asked. Pierce nodded. "It's our best chance, but we'll need precise timing and perfect coordination." Neil stepped forward. "So we need to talk to the lunar bases and tell them exactly what to do." "Yes," Pierce said. "And we need to do it soon. The longer the shield stays up, the stronger it gets. If we wait too long, even this plan won't work." Admiral Zex Terra looked at all the humans and aliens in the room. "Then we start now. Every minute counts." The command room of the Star Voyager buzzed with activity. Aliens and humans worked side by side, planning the mission to save Earth. Admiral Zex Terra watched as Professor Pierce explained his plan to everyone. "The shield has 12 weak points," Pierce said, pointing to a glowing model of Earth. "We need to hit all 12 at the same time with energy beams of exactly the right frequency." Neil Garcia raised his hand. "But how do we aim at those points?" "They're not visible." "That's where the lunar bases come in," Pierce said. "They are outside the shield but close enough to Earth to aim properly. They have powerful energy projectors they use for mining." "Can these mining tools be changed to make the right kind of energy beam?" Kreelan asked. Pierce nodded. "Yes, but someone needs to show them how." Admiral Zex Terra looked around the room. "We need to send a team to each lunar base who knows how to change these mining tools." The 3 engineers from Mars raised their hands. "We do," Olivia Smith said. "But there are 8 lunar bases and only 3 of us." "I can help too," Pierce said. "That makes 4. "I know the basic tech," Neil added. "I worked on similar systems before I left Earth." Several aliens also stepped forward, offering to help. Soon, they had 12 volunteers, enough for every lunar base. "We have another problem," Kreelan said. "We need to talk to Earth at the same time to coordinate this. But the shield blocks communications." Everyone went quiet, thinking about this problem. "Wait," Neil said suddenly. "When we were near Earth in the scout ship, we found a spot where the shield was weaker. We were able to talk to Earth briefly from that location." Professor Pierce looked excited. "Of course. The shield isn't perfectly even. It has thin spots where the energy flow is disrupted. So we need ships at those thin spots to relay messages between Earth and the lunar bases," Admiral Zex Terra said. "Exactly," Pierce agreed. "We'll need the fastest ships with the best communication systems." The plan grew more complex. They would need ships positioned at key points around Earth to create a communication bridge. They would need teams at each lunar base to modify the energy projectors, and they would need perfect timing to make it all work. "This is the biggest coordinated operation the Council has ever attempted," Admiral Zex Terra said, but her skin glowed with a confident blue color. For 2 days, everyone worked without stopping. Ships were prepared, crews were trained, and equipment was modified. The engineers created small devices that would change the mining projectors to produce the right kind of energy beam. Finally, the teams left for the lunar bases. Neil Garcia was sent to Armstrong Base, the largest human settlement on the moon. When he arrived, the base commander, Jack Davis, was waiting. "We've been watching Earth for days," Jack said. "We tried everything to contact them. Now we have a plan," Neil told him. "But we need to work fast." At each lunar base, the teams worked to modify the mining projectors. They pointed them at Earth, aiming at the weak spots in the shield. The Council ships took positions around Earth, forming a ring of communication relays. On the Star Voyager, Professor Pierce and Admiral Zex Terra watched the operation unfold on a big screen. "All teams report ready," an officer announced. "All ships in position," said another. Professor Pierce looked at the time. "We have one chance to get this right. The shield's weak points shift every few hours." Admiral Zex Terra stood tall. "Start the countdown. Let's bring Earth back." On the screen, they could see all 12 lunar bases, their energy projectors glowing as they powered up. Everything was ready. The most complex rescue mission in history was about to begin. "All stations ready," called out the communications officer on the Star Voyager. Neil Garcia stood at the control panel in Armstrong Base on the Moon. Through the base's big window, he could see Earth, beautiful and blue, but wrapped in an invisible shield that had cut it off from the rest of the galaxy. "Energy projectors at full power," Jack Davis reported beside him. Similar reports came in from the other 11 lunar bases. Each base had its energy projector aimed at a specific weak point in Earth's shield. On the Star Voyager, Professor Pierce watched the master display. 12 green dots showed the lunar bases. Red lines showed the paths their energy beams would take. "We need to hear from Earth," he said. "We need to know they're ready on their side." Admiral Zex Terra nodded to her communications team. "Contact Earth through the relay ships." The message was sent, jumping from ship to ship through the thin spots in the shield. Minutes passed as everyone waited. Message received from Earth. A young alien officer finally announced. "Dr. Wilson says they are ready and have their power systems set to help break the shield from inside." Professor Pierce took a deep breath. "Start the countdown. 10, 9, 8. On each lunar base, the teams watched their equipment. The energy projectors hummed louder as they reached full power. 7, 6, 5. Neil checked his controls one last time. Everything looked good. He thought about his sister and her children on Earth, waiting for the shield to break. 4, 3, 2. Across the room, Creelan's 4 hands moved quickly over the backup systems. His large eyes were focused on the power levels. 1. Fire. 12 powerful energy beams shot from the moon toward Earth. Each beam hit its target, a weak point in the shield. The beams were invisible to human eyes, but the ship sensors showed them clearly. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the shield began to glow around the points where the beams hit. The glow spread like cracks in glass. "It's working," Professor Pierce shouted. "Keep the beams steady." Inside the shield, Earth's scientists activated their part of the plan. Power plants around the world sent their energy into the atmosphere, pushing against the shield from the inside. The shield's glow grew brighter. The cracks spread wider. On the Star Voyager's main screen, they could see the shield starting to break apart. "Just a little more," Professor Pierce whispered. Suddenly, there was a flash of light that even the ship's computers couldn't record properly. When the screens cleared, the shield was gone. "We did it," Neil shouted at Armstrong Base. The room erupted in cheers. On the Star Voyager, Admiral Zex Terra's skin turned a bright, happy blue. "Check communications with Earth." The communications officer worked at her controls. Incoming signals detected. Thousands of them. "Earth is broadcasting again." The first messages were confused and jumbled. 3 days of stored communications, all trying to get out at once. News reports, personal messages, music and data streams poured out into space. Professor Pierce sat down heavily in a chair, his face showing both relief and tiredness. It worked exactly as the math said it would. Admiral Zex Terra put a hand on his shoulder. "You saved your world, Professor." Within hours, official thanks came from Earth's governments. They invited the Galactic Council to send representatives to discuss what had happened and how to prevent it in the future. 2 days later, Neil Garcia stood in a large meeting room at the United Earth headquarters. Leaders from Earth sat on one side of the table. Admiral Zex Terra and other council members sat on the other side. "We've already started redesigning the shield system," Dr. Wilson explained. "The new version will have multiple fail-safes that can't all break at once. And we're building a special communication system that will work even if the shield activates unexpectedly," added another Earth scientist. Admiral Zex Terra nodded approvingly. "This is why the galaxy needs humans. You never just fix a problem. You make sure it can never happen again." As the meeting continued, Neil looked out the window at the busy streets below. Earth was back to its normal noisy self. Messages flowed freely to the stars again. The silence was over. "You know," Krelen said quietly beside him, "for 3 days, the galaxy was a much quieter place." Neil smiled. "Too quiet, if you ask me. Sometimes a little noise is a good thing."